Diets don't work. Why is that? It's because they're not sustainable. You know I'm right because you've been on a diet before, but did it last? Diets only last as long as you're on the diet. But then as soon as you get off the diet, it doesn't work anymore. You know, there's all kinds of diets out there. People have lost weight with, there's thousands of different fad diets and effective diets and diets that have been around just recently, diets that have been around for a long time, but they only work as long as you're on the diet. And America's great with this. There's always a new diet to try, a new thing to buy, a new program, whatever, a new team to jump on, a new coach. There's tons of them, hundreds of thousands of them out there available to us. So it's not a concept of which ones work the best, which ones do work, which ones don't work. I think almost all of them work as long as you do them. The problem with diets and why they don't work long term is because none of us are gonna stay on the same diet forever. That's why the macronutrient counting is so important, to learn how to understand the food that you're putting in your body. When I look at what I used to eat and I thought it was healthy, but then I finally understood. In fact, when I finally understood what macros were, and for those of you that don't know, your macros are your protein, your calories, and your fat grams. Those three things that you focus on. And what you do is if you've got fat that you wanna get rid of, if you've got weight that you wanna drop, you put yourself in a caloric deficit. It's no big deal. You need to be at less calories than you burn every day. Probably somewhere less than 2,000 calories a day. If you work out consistently 5-6 days a week, depends on your size, you maybe are a little over 2,000 calories a day, still in a caloric deficit, but most of us need to start out at a little under 2,000 calories a day. And what we need to do is break our percentages up. Of those 2,000 calories, you have 100%. How many percentage of that 100% is my carbohydrates? How many of that percentage is my protein? And then how many of that percentage out of that 100 is my fat? By breaking your macros up, and again, your macros are your protein, your carbs, and your fat. By breaking your macros up correctly and tracking what you eat, you can lose weight in a really good amount of time. And then when you get down to your desired, whatever you're trying to lose, whatever fat body percentage, body mass percentage, whatever your weight that you're trying to lose, whatever look you're trying to attain, by getting rid of all the fat, then you increase your caloric intake every day, you increase the calories that you're gonna eat every day, and you change your percentages. But you could live by counting macros for the rest of your life. It's once you understand it, it's not hard to do. I think a lot of people don't do it because they don't understand what macros are. They don't understand how it's going to help. They think it's just another diet. Macros and counting your macros, tracking your macros every day, it's not a diet. It's a way of life, because what it does for you is it helps you to understand what you're eating, what's inside of that food, and what that food is going to do to your body. The other side of it is there is no food that you're not allowed to eat. Nobody's there telling you, oh, that's not part of the macro program. Nobody has rights to the macro program. Like, your macro program is your macro count. It is what it is. If you want to eat a slice of pizza, eat a slice, but don't eat 5. Because you're going to realize real quick all the fat that's in there, and you eat 5 slices of pizza, you're good chance, depending on what your count is, what your fat count is every day, you're going to go over your fat grams, and then you're stuck. And so what it is, okay, I'll give you an example. In my case, when I started counting macros every day, I weighed 248 pounds. Okay, 248 pounds. And when I begin to track my macros every day, I was at 1,900 calories a day. And I broke it up by 45% carbs, so 45% protein, because I work out 6 days a week. Well, I didn't then, but now I do. 45% protein, 35% carbs, and 20% fat, okay? And I've kept those percentages. Now I'm down to 1,700 calories a day because I'm down to 175 pounds. I'm gonna lose a little bit more. I wanna get my body fat into the single percentile, so it needs to be under 10% before I even consider a bulk. And to be fair, nobody should be bulking. Like, everybody can do what you want, but these people that talk about a bulk, I'm on a bulk. It's like, you already are a bulk. Like, you already are a bulk. You already got 2 of you in there. Like, You got a massive gut. What are you bulking for? Seriously. But at the end of the day, that's just my personal opinion. I'm not the world's fitness expert, but I do think that there's no point in bulking if you're fat, okay? So what I'm trying to do is get under 10% at least, minimum 9% body fat, but I'll get a little less than that, single digit body fat, and then I'll maintain that single digit body fat. But even though I'm at 1,700 calories, whatever I end up being at in my caloric deficit, by the time I get to the bottom of my cut, then I'll take it up. And I'll be at, over 2,000 for sure once I start at bulk, but I'll keep it still. I'll change my percentages as far as the carb percentage, the protein percentage, and the fat percentage every day. Now I know this might sound like a lot or confusing. Believe me, it's not. What I do is I use MyFitnessPal. I put in the calories that I want to use every day, and then you hit the calorie button and it'll let you dictate what percentage of carbs you want out of those calories, what percentage of protein you want out of those calories, and what percentage of fat you want out of those calories every day. So I'm at 45% protein every day, 35% carbs, 20% fat. And I've also had people, when I get them set up with this program, they ask me, oh, what about my iron? And what about, my potassium? And what about, it's like, man, look, you're way overweight. You're not healthy. Why don't you just focus on dropping the fat first before you want to get all scientific down to the gram with your potassium and iron? I'm not talking about if you got an iron deficiency and a doctor is giving you medicine. I'm not a doctor. But what I am saying is stop trying to overthink it so that you're inactive. If you want to lose weight, I can tell you right now, a sustainable way is to understand what you're putting in your body. And the best way to understand it is to not get all scientific with it. It's to look at how many carbs, how many grams of protein, and how many grams of fat you're eating in a meal. If I eat bacon and eggs for breakfast, okay? Yeah, it tastes good, and we think, oh, that's what farmers have been eating forever. Yeah, well, okay, go ahead and eat bacon and eggs for breakfast every day. Eggs, yes, but bacon, come on, man. It's not gonna be good for you. There's a lot of fat in that. And you wonder why sometimes you maybe don't eat all that much, but you still can't get rid of the fat. And you're like, dude, I don't even eat 2,000 calories a day. Yeah, but let's say you have 1,500 calories. In those 1,500 calories, are you ingesting 60, 70, 80 grams of fat? If you are, you're not going to burn fat. Now, I'm not saying I don't care if you're fat. That's up to you. If you don't want to be fat, don't be fat. I'm telling you how to not be fat. It's by understanding macros instead of overthinking this whole process and going with non-sustainable diets.